The strangest part about destiny is that sometimes it arrives exactly on schedule. Jessica Morgan would spend months believing the man who changed her life had appeared by chance. She would not discover until much later that he had arrived 3 minutes early. Chicago woke beneath a sky the color of polished steel. The first Monday of October carried a sharp morning chill, and people hurried through downtown with coffee cups in one hand and busy lives in the other. Cars rolled through wet streets. School buses groaned to life. The city moved exactly as it always had. Jessica moved with it. She held her 8-year-old daughter's small hand as they walked toward the neighborhood bus stop, her leather handbag resting against one shoulder. Her warm beige cardigan shielded them from the cold wind, though it could not hide the quiet exhaustion beneath her gentle smile. "You remembered your spelling test?" Jessica asked softly. Her daughter nodded. "And your lunch?" "It is in my backpack." Jessica smiled. "Then I think you are ready." The little girl leaned against her mother for just a moment before looking up at the cloudy sky. "I hope it does not rain." "So do I." Jessica tucked a loose wave of dark golden brown hair behind her ear and squeezed her daughter's hand. Small moments like these mattered. They cost nothing, yet they somehow carried the greatest value. Across the street, a black luxury sedan waited discreetly beneath a row of autumn trees. Inside, Richard Hawthorne watched the quiet scene through the windshield. He wore a perfectly tailored navy suit, though his attention had nothing to do with the business meeting waiting later that morning. His crystal blue eyes remained fixed on Jessica and her daughter. His phone vibrated once. A secure message appeared. "Subject approaching the intersection." Richard read it, then quietly deleted it. His driver glanced toward him in the rearview mirror. "Sir." Richard looked toward the bus stop again. "Wait." Nothing more. Only wait. 3 minutes passed. Jessica and her daughter stepped toward the crosswalk as the pedestrian signal changed. A delivery van turned the corner a little faster than expected before braking sharply several yards away. It never came dangerously close, but the sudden sound startled the little girl. She stumbled backward. Jessica instinctively reached for her. Before either of them regained their balance, another hand gently steadied the frightened child. "You are all right." Richard's voice remained calm, steady, never hurried. The little girl looked up first. "Thank you." Jessica turned quickly, her heart still racing. "I am so sorry. I should have been paying closer attention." "There is nothing to apologize for," Richard replied. "Mornings can surprise all of us." For a brief second, neither of them spoke. Jessica noticed kind eyes before she noticed the expensive suit. Richard noticed a mother who comforted her daughter before checking herself. "You saved the day," the little girl said with a shy smile. Richard laughed quietly. "I think your mom was already doing that." Jessica smiled despite herself. It had been a long time since someone had spoken to her with such simple warmth. The school bus pulled to the curb. After one final hug, the little girl climbed aboard, waving excitedly through the window until the bus disappeared around the corner. Jessica let out a slow breath. "I guess Mondays always find a way to be memorable." "They usually do," Richard answered. "I am Richard." "Jessica." They shook hands. Nothing about the moment felt extraordinary. Just two strangers meeting on an ordinary Chicago sidewalk. Yet somewhere else in the city, another phone vibrated. One message. 6 words. Initial contact successful. Proceed to phase 1. Richard never looked at the notification. Instead, he watched Jessica smile politely before continuing toward another long day of work. For reasons he could not yet explain, the mission suddenly felt much heavier than it had only a few minutes before. Jessica tried to convince herself that the stranger at the crosswalk had simply been a pleasant coincidence. Life had taught her not to expect second chances. Certainly not from handsome strangers with calm voices and kind eyes. By 9 o'clock, the neighborhood cafe had settled into its familiar rhythm. Fresh coffee filled the air. Muffins disappeared from the display case almost as quickly as they arrived. Regular customers greeted Jessica by name, and she welcomed each one with the same warm smile that had carried her through countless difficult mornings. Kindness had become a habit, even on the days when hope felt expensive. Around 10:30, the small bell above the entrance chimed. Jessica looked up automatically. For a brief moment, She forgot to breathe. Richard walked inside wearing a charcoal sweater beneath a navy overcoat instead of the tailored business suit she had seen earlier. Without the polished corporate image, he looked surprisingly approachable. Their eyes met. He smiled first. "I hope I am not interrupting your morning." Jessica smiled back. "I think we survived the morning rush. I was hoping this place served good coffee. It serves the best coffee within 5 blocks. Richard laughed softly. "That sounds like a recommendation I can trust." Jessica prepared a fresh black coffee while he quietly looked around the cozy cafe. Framed neighborhood photographs covered the walls. Children's drawings hung beside handwritten community announcements. Nothing about the place felt luxurious. Everything about it felt real. As she handed him the cup, Richard thanked her before taking a careful sip. "This is exactly how I like it." Jessica blinked. "You drink it without sugar too?" "I always have." She nodded. "So do I." Neither of them realized the coincidence was not entirely one. Richard remembered the detail from a report he wished he had never read. Jessica believed she had simply met someone who shared her taste. Richard glanced toward a colorful drawing taped behind the register. A green dinosaur stood beside a smiling little girl. "Your daughter drew that." Jessica looked pleasantly surprised. "How did you know?" He answered almost too quickly. "You mentioned this morning that she had a spelling test." It seemed like the kind of picture a child her age would proudly make. Jessica smiled. "She loves dinosaurs." "I know." The words slipped out before he could stop them. A brief silence followed. Richard recovered almost immediately. I had a feeling after seeing the drawing." Jessica accepted the explanation with an easy laugh. "She has loved dinosaurs since she was 4. Richard nodded. "I imagine she could teach most museum guides a thing or two." Jessica laughed again, this time louder. For a moment, the cafe seemed brighter. Across the street, inside an ordinary gray sedan, a woman lowered a camera after quietly photographing the conversation through the cafe window. She opened a secure application on her tablet. Contact progressing normally. Subject remains comfortable. Recommend phase 2. She pressed send. Back inside the cafe, Richard's phone vibrated silently. He did not reach for it. Instead, he listened as Jessica described how her daughter dreamed of becoming a paleontologist one day. She spoke with quiet pride. Every sentence reminded him that she measured success very differently than the people sitting in his executive boardroom. When Richard finally stood to leave, Jessica noticed he had forgotten the museum brochure resting beside his coffee cup. "Sir." He turned. "You left this." Richard looked at the colorful brochure for Chicago's Natural History Museum. "I suppose I did." Jessica smiled gently. "Looks like someone else likes dinosaurs too." Richard held the brochure for a long second before slipping it into his coat pocket. "Maybe I know someone who would enjoy going." As he stepped outside into the cool afternoon air, his phone vibrated once more. This time he looked. One sentence appeared across the screen. "Secure emotional access before Friday." Richard stared at the message, then slowly locked his phone without answering. For the first time since this assignment began, he wished someone else had been chosen to carry it. Saturday arrived beneath a bright October sky, crisp and cool, with golden leaves drifting across the Chicago Riverwalk. Jessica almost canceled twice before leaving the apartment. She stood in front of the mirror, adjusting the sleeve of her cream cardigan, wondering if she was making a mistake. Her daughter looked up from tying her sneakers. "Mom." "Yes, sweetheart. You are smiling." Jessica laughed quietly. "Am I?" "A little." She looked at her reflection again. Maybe she was. Maybe hope always appeared before people realized it. A few minutes later, Richard's dark sport utility vehicle pulled gently to the curb outside their apartment building. No chauffeur. No security detail. Just Richard behind the wheel. He stepped out wearing dark jeans, a navy quilted jacket, and comfortable boots. He looked nothing like a billionaire. He looked like someone who belonged on a family outing. "Good morning," he said warmly. Jessica smiled. "You actually came." "I said I would." Her daughter hurried down the steps carrying a small backpack. "I brought my dinosaur sketchbook." Richard crouched until they were eye level. "I was hoping you would." She grinned. I am going to draw everything today. I cannot wait to see it. Jessica watched the exchange carefully. Children usually sensed insincerity long before adults did. Yet somehow, her daughter trusted Richard without hesitation. The Riverwalk buzzed with music, food vendors, local artists, and families enjoying one of the last warm weekends before winter. Fresh popcorn scented the air. Street musicians filled the sidewalks with soft acoustic melodies. The river reflected the afternoon sunlight like polished glass. For the first hour, everything felt wonderfully ordinary. Richard never tried to impress Jessica. Instead, he listened. He asked about her bakery recipes. He laughed at her daughter's stories about dinosaurs defeating dragons. He carried their drinks without being asked. The simplicity felt strangely comforting. Near the science exhibit, Jessica stopped beside a display featuring fossil replicas. Her daughter excitedly pointed toward a towering Tyrannosaurus skeleton. "Mom, look. It is huge." Richard smiled. "I think someone knows every dinosaur in this building." The little girl nodded proudly. "I know more than my teacher." "I believe you." She laughed so hard that nearby visitors turned to smile. Richard found himself laughing with her. Not because it served any purpose, because it felt genuine. His phone vibrated inside his jacket. Once, twice, 3 times. He ignored it. Finally, Jessica noticed. "You should answer that. It can wait. It might be important." Richard hesitated. "Only 1 minute." He stepped away toward a quieter section overlooking the river. The moment he answered, a familiar voice spoke calmly. "Status report." Richard looked back toward Jessica and her daughter. "They trust me." "Good." A brief pause followed. "Move to phase 2. Richard remained silent. The voice continued. "Secure emotional access before Friday." His grip tightened around the phone. "I heard you. No delays." The call ended. Richard lowered the phone slowly. Across the river, Jessica watched him from a distance. She could not hear a single word, but something about his expression had changed. When he returned, he smiled again. It looked almost the same. Almost. They spent the rest of the afternoon feeding ducks along the water. Jessica unpacked homemade turkey sandwiches and oatmeal cookies she had prepared that morning. Richard accepted one of the cookies with quiet gratitude. "This might be the best cookie I have ever tasted." Jessica laughed. "You are being polite." "I am being honest." For a brief moment, she believed him completely. Neither of them noticed the woman sitting alone on a nearby park bench. She wore sunglasses despite the mild afternoon light. A small camera rested discreetly inside her handbag. She quietly photographed Richard standing beside Jessica and her daughter. Then she typed one final update into a secure application. Subject demonstrates increasing emotional attachment. Operation advancing ahead of schedule. Richard looked toward Jessica once more. She was helping her daughter brush cookie crumbs from her jacket while laughing at something only the two of them understood. Without realizing it, the assignment that had once seemed perfectly clear was slowly becoming the one decision he wished he had never accepted. The days that followed slipped quietly into a comfortable routine. Richard stopped by the cafe more often than he planned. Sometimes he stayed for 10 minutes. Sometimes he sat by the window with a black coffee until his next meeting called him away. Jessica never asked why he kept coming back. Part of her already knew. One rainy Wednesday morning, she placed his coffee on the table before he reached the counter. Richard looked up, surprised. "I did not even order yet. You always order the same thing." He smiled. "I guess you have been paying attention." Jessica laughed softly. "I suppose I have." Neither of them realized how dangerous those simple words truly were. That afternoon, Jessica's phone rang just before her shift ended. Her daughter's teacher sounded apologetic. "The science fair has been moved to tomorrow evening." Jessica closed her eyes for a second. She had promised her daughter she would help decorate the volcano project that night. "I will be there as soon as I can." After hanging up, she quietly stared at the stack of catering orders still waiting to be finished. Her manager noticed immediately. "You need to leave." "I cannot. You have a daughter waiting." Jessica smiled sadly. "So does every bill sitting on my kitchen table." Before either of them could continue, someone spoke behind her. "I can help." Jessica turned. Richard stood beside the entrance, holding his umbrella. I was nearby. You heard all of that? I heard enough. Jessica shook her head. I appreciate the offer, but I cannot ask you to do my work. You are not asking. I am offering. She hesitated. You do not even know how to prepare coffee. Richard looked toward the espresso machine. I suppose today is a good day to learn. For the next hour, customers smiled as they watched the sharply dressed businessman wiping tables, carrying trays, and carefully delivering coffee under Jessica's patient instructions. His first cappuccino looked terrible. The second looked slightly better. By the third, even Jessica laughed. I think we should keep your day job. I completely agree. When the last customer left, Richard helped wash the remaining dishes without complaint. Jessica watched him quietly. Nothing about the afternoon felt forced. No photographers. No expensive gifts. No dramatic speeches. Just someone choosing to stay. Later that evening, they arrived together at the elementary school gymnasium. Children proudly displayed homemade science projects while parents wandered between colorful tables. Jessica's daughter ran toward them with sparkling eyes. You came. Jessica hugged her tightly. I told you I would. The little girl looked at Richard. And you came too. I would not miss a volcano. She laughed. It actually erupts. I was hoping it would. As the judges walked through the exhibits, Jessica noticed Richard listening carefully while her daughter explained fossils, lava flows, and dinosaurs with endless enthusiasm. He never interrupted. He never pretended to know more than she did. He simply listened. Across the gymnasium, a man in a dark suit quietly observed the three of them before stepping outside. He spoke into his phone. The child is fully comfortable around him now. A calm voice answered. Excellent. What about the mother? A brief silence followed. Advanced to the final stage. The call ended. Back inside the school, Jessica smiled as her daughter proudly accepted a small ribbon for creativity. Richard applauded louder than anyone else. For one perfect evening, they looked less like strangers and more like a family. Richard watched Jessica wiping away quiet tears of pride as her daughter hugged the ribbon against her chest. His chest tightened. He finally understood what frightened him most. It was not the investigation. It was the growing certainty that every honest feeling inside him had begun with a carefully planned lie. Friday arrived carrying the kind of gray skies that made Chicago feel colder than the weather forecast promised. Jessica's cafe received an unexpected catering request just after sunrise. Corporate luncheon. 100 guests. Delivery required before noon. Her manager looked relieved. They specifically asked for our bakery. Jessica smiled. That is good news. It is also downtown. She nodded. I will handle it. By late morning, Jessica carefully arranged the final tray inside the delivery van before driving toward Hawthorne Capital. She had heard the company name before. Everyone in Chicago had. She simply never imagined she would walk through its front doors. The headquarters tower rose high above the city, its mirrored glass reflecting the cloudy afternoon sky. Inside, polished marble floors stretched beneath towering ceilings. Executives crossed the lobby with quiet confidence. Everything felt elegant. Everything felt distant. Jessica suddenly became very aware of her simple cardigan and comfortable shoes. A receptionist greeted her warmly. Catering delivery? Yes. The executive conference suite, 62nd floor. The elevator climbed almost silently. Jessica watched the numbers rise one by one. 40, 48, 56, 62. When the doors opened, several assistants hurried toward the catering carts. Perfect timing, one woman said with a grateful smile. The board meeting is about to begin. Jessica helped carry trays into the reception area outside the conference room. The hallway buzzed with quiet urgency. People carried folders. Coffee. Presentation screens flickered to life beyond the glass walls. Then, a sharp voice echoed from inside the conference room. We cannot delay this any longer. Jessica froze for only a second. She recognized the voice. Richard. Another man answered. The final phase begins today. Jessica lowered her eyes immediately. She had no intention of listening. An assistant approached carrying a tall stack of gray folders toward the meeting room. Just as she reached the doorway, someone opened the door from inside. The folders slipped. Paper scattered across the polished floor. "I am so sorry," the assistant whispered. Jessica instinctively bent down to help gather everything. One folder had fallen open. First, she noticed only photographs. A neighborhood cafe, an elementary school, the Chicago River Walk. Then, her hand stopped moving. The next photograph showed her daughter laughing while holding a dinosaur sketchbook. Jessica stared. Another page slipped partly free. A map. Her apartment building. Bus routes highlighted in yellow. Work schedule. School pickup times. Medical notes. Every page carried the same bold heading. Confidential. Her breathing became shallow. One final document slipped from the folder onto the marble floor. At the top, she saw her own name, Jessica Morgan. Below it, another line. Subject assessment. Emotional trust level high. Primary emotional leverage. Minor daughter. Jessica felt the blood drain from her face. The hallway around her disappeared. Every warm memory replayed inside her mind. The first meeting. The coffee. The festival. The science fair. Every smile. Every conversation. Every coincidence. None of them felt accidental anymore. Slow footsteps echoed behind her. She already knew who it was before turning around. Richard stood only a few feet away. His expression changed the instant he saw the open folder in her trembling hands. He did not look angry. He looked terrified. Neither of them spoke. The assistant quietly stepped backward, sensing something had gone terribly wrong. Jessica lifted the page one final time. Her voice barely rose above a whisper. "You already knew everything." Richard's lips parted. He searched desperately for words that would somehow undo the impossible. There were none. Jessica looked into his eyes. For the first time since they met, she no longer saw the man who had made her believe that hope could return. She saw a stranger standing in the middle of every beautiful memory she had trusted. The confidential file slipped slowly from her hands. Its pages scattered across the marble floor between them. And with them, every promise she believed had just fallen apart. The silence between them felt heavier than the towering glass walls surrounding the executive floor. Jessica could still hear the soft sound of paper settling across the marble floor. Her name, her daughter's photograph, her entire life, reduced to neatly organized reports inside a gray folder. Richard took one careful step forward. "Jessica." She raised one trembling hand. "Do not." The single word stopped him immediately. Employees quietly disappeared down nearby hallways, sensing that something deeply personal had just unfolded. Jessica lowered her eyes to one of the scattered pages. It listed the elementary school science fair, the Riverwalk Festival, the neighborhood cafe. Each memory carried a date, a location, a note. Nothing had been forgotten. Nothing had been accidental. She looked back at Richard. "So the day we met." He closed his eyes briefly. "Yes. You already knew where I would be." "Yes. The coffee shop." "Yes. The festival." "Yes." Every answer became another piece of the truth she wished she had never heard. Tears gathered quietly in her eyes. Not because she wanted to cry, because her heart had suddenly run out of places to hide. "You planned all of it." Richard's voice remained calm, though the regret behind every word was impossible to miss. "I planned the beginning." Jessica stared at him. "And the rest?" A long silence followed. "The rest was never supposed to happen." She laughed once, a fragile sound that carried no happiness. "You expect me to understand the difference?" "No. I only want you to know it." Jessica looked away. For several seconds, she simply watched the rain sliding down the enormous office windows overlooking downtown Chicago. Then she spoke again. "Tell me why." Richard inhaled slowly. "Several years ago, after your husband passed away, investigators uncovered evidence that someone inside a financial network believed confidential records had been left with your family." Jessica frowned. "My husband worked in accounting." "I know. He never talked about anything like that." "I believe you." She looked back at him. "Then why follow us?" "Because someone else believed you had information without realizing it." Richard's voice became quieter. The investigation team thought whoever wanted those records would eventually contact you. Jessica shook her head slowly. So I became the bait. Richard never argued. In the beginning. Yes. She lowered her gaze. And my daughter. His answer came immediately. She was never a target. But she was in your file. Richard swallowed. Because every person close to you was documented. Jessica felt her chest tighten. You watched her grow comfortable around you. I did. And you wrote reports about it. I never wrote those reports. You approved them. Richard could not deny it. Yes. The word echoed painfully between them. Jessica wiped away a tear before it could fall. You remembered her favorite dinosaur. I did. You remembered how I drink my coffee. Yes. You remembered everything. Richard's voice almost broke. Because somewhere along the way, I stopped memorizing information. He looked directly into her eyes. I started remembering the people. Jessica searched his face for even the smallest trace of deception. She found only sorrow. It did not change anything. She slowly reached into her pocket and removed the small folded museum ticket her daughter had asked her to keep after their visit together. For weeks, it had been one of her happiest memories. She placed it gently on top of the scattered investigation file. I thought this was where our story began. Her voice trembled. But now I know it started inside a folder. Richard stared at the ticket without moving. No. His answer came softly. The folder introduced me to your name. He lifted his eyes toward her. You introduced me to everything that mattered. Jessica closed her eyes for one brief moment. When she opened them again, the warmth he had slowly built inside her heart was gone. I cannot tell which memories belong to me anymore. She turned toward the elevator. Richard remained exactly where he stood. He wanted to follow her. He wanted to explain everything that still remained unsaid. Instead, he let the elevator doors close. For the first time in his life, Richard Hawthorne understood that the hardest consequence of telling the truth was discovering it had arrived far too late. Jessica did not return to the cafe that afternoon. She drove home through slow Chicago traffic without turning on the radio. Silence felt easier than trying to organize thoughts that no longer fit together. Every traffic light gave her another memory. Richard laughing beside the river. Richard carrying coffee trays. Richard listening as her daughter explained dinosaurs with complete confidence. Each memory now carried a second version, one she had never seen before. When she reached the apartment, her daughter ran toward the door with a bright smile. Mom! Jessica forced herself to smile back. How was school? I got an A on my spelling test. I knew you would. Her daughter wrapped both arms around her. You look tired. I had a long day. The little girl looked around. Is Mr. Richard coming for dinner? Jessica felt her heart tighten. She knelt until they were face to face. No, sweetheart. Did something happen? Jessica searched for words gentle enough for an 8-year-old. He made a choice that hurt people. Her daughter frowned. But he is nice. Jessica nodded slowly. I think people can be kind and still make very painful mistakes. The little girl quietly accepted the answer. Children often understood emotions long before they understood reasons. Across downtown Chicago, the executive conference room remained occupied long after everyone else had left. The confidential file still rested on the polished table. Richard stood beside the floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the city. No one spoke for several moments. Finally, the chairman broke the silence. The emotional phase is over. Richard never turned around. There should never have been an emotional phase. The investigation required access. It required honesty. Another executive folded his arms. You completed exactly what you were assigned to do. Richard looked back at the room. No, I completed what I was told. Those are not always the same thing. The legal director slid a sealed evidence envelope onto the table. It no longer matters. Richard frowned. What is that? The final recovery report. He opened the envelope slowly. Inside were photographs from an old storage facility, a damaged lockbox, several accounting ledgers, encrypted financial drives, a signed inventory. Richard's expression changed. Where was this found? A storage unit rented under your late husband's business records. He looked up immediately. Jessica never had any of it. No. Her apartment was never connected? No. The anonymous tip was wrong? The chairman answered quietly. Worse. It appears someone intentionally redirected the investigation toward her family. The room fell completely silent. Richard stared at the evidence without blinking. Every surveillance report, every planned meeting, every carefully arranged coincidence, every conversation with Jessica, every smile from her daughter, built upon a false trail. He slowly closed the folder. Who authorized continuing after the evidence became uncertain? No one answered. Richard looked around the room. This investigation should have ended weeks ago. Another executive finally spoke. We believed maintaining contact carried minimal risk. Richard's voice became firmer. It carried all the risk. He placed both hands on the conference table. You turned an innocent mother into a strategy. The chairman remained composed. The company has dismantled the fraud network. Richard shook his head. At the cost of someone who never belonged inside this case. He picked up the gray investigation file. For several seconds, he simply looked at Jessica's smiling photograph attached to the cover. Then he quietly removed it. One page, then another. Finally, he stopped at a report describing the increasing trust between Jessica, her daughter, and himself. The final sentence read, "Subject demonstrates complete emotional dependency." Richard slowly tore the page in half, then into smaller pieces. He looked around the silent room. You wrote those words. His voice was calm. But you never once asked what they would do to a human heart. No one answered. Outside, the lights of Chicago stretched endlessly beneath the darkening sky. For the first time since this investigation began, Richard understood a truth no report could ever measure. The greatest mistake had never been believing Jessica possessed evidence. It had been believing that an innocent person's trust was something that could be borrowed and returned without leaving permanent scars. Monday morning arrived without ceremony. Chicago continued moving exactly as it always had. Trains crossed the river. Coffee shops filled before sunrise. Office towers reflected pale autumn light. The city had no idea that somewhere inside one of those buildings, a man was preparing to walk away from everything he had spent 20 years building. Richard arrived at Hawthorne Capital before anyone else. The executive floor was silent. He unlocked his office for what he already knew would be the final time. For several minutes, he simply stood beside the windows overlooking the skyline. The city looked unchanged. He was not. His assistant entered quietly. There is a board meeting in 30 minutes. Richard nodded. I know. She hesitated. The directors have prepared a public statement celebrating the investigation. Richard slowly removed the executive identification badge clipped to his jacket. He placed it on the desk. They will need a different statement. She looked at him surprised. You have made your decision. I made it the moment I realized Jessica never should have been part of any of this. The boardroom filled exactly on schedule. Senior executives, corporate attorneys, outside investigators. Everyone expected closing remarks. Richard remained standing. No presentation appeared on the screen behind him. No financial charts. No victory speech. Only silence. Finally, he spoke. We succeeded in exposing the fraud. Several directors nodded. Then Richard continued. We also failed an innocent family. The room became still. One director leaned forward. Our investigation followed legal recommendations. It followed procedures. Richard's voice remained calm. But procedures are not the same as principles. Another executive folded his hands. No laws were broken. Richard looked directly at him. Sometimes doing everything legally still leaves you morally wrong. No one answered. Richard placed a sealed envelope in the center of the conference table. My resignation. Several voices spoke at once. This is unnecessary. The company needs stability. You cannot leave now. Richard waited until the room fell quiet again. I taught every employee in this company that accountability begins with leadership. He glanced around the table. If those words meant anything, then they begin with me. The chairman slowly opened the envelope. Inside rested only one page. Signed, effective immediately. Richard reached into his briefcase. One final folder. Not confidential. Not classified. Inside were signed directives ending every remaining observation connected to Jessica and her daughter. He slid the documents across the table. Every personal record is to be permanently removed from company archives. The legal director frowned. The investigation files must remain. The financial evidence remains. Richard nodded. The personal surveillance does not. A long silence followed. Finally, the chairman spoke. You are giving up your career because you became emotionally involved. Richard shook his head. No, I am giving it up because I confused access with trust. His voice grew quieter. And she paid the price. Later that afternoon, Richard drove alone across the city. No driver. No assistant. No security escort. He stopped outside a small stationery shop. Inside, he bought a plain cream envelope, a fountain pen, and a sheet of heavy writing paper. Nothing expensive. Nothing designed to impress. Back at his apartment, he sat at the dining table for nearly an hour before writing the first sentence. He crossed it out. Then another. He realized apologies became meaningless the moment they tried to defend themselves. So he began again. I cannot undo what I chose. I can only accept what it cost you. He stopped writing, folded the letter carefully, then opened a small wooden box resting on a nearby shelf. Inside lay the dinosaur museum ticket Jessica's daughter had decorated with colorful stickers. Beside it rested the small crayon drawing she had proudly handed him weeks earlier. He placed both inside the envelope with the letter, not as proof that he deserved forgiveness, only as proof that none of those moments had ever been forgotten. As evening settled over Chicago, Richard quietly sealed the envelope. For the first time since this story began, he was no longer following a plan. He was simply trying to become a man who deserved the truth he had finally chosen to live. Winter arrived quietly, covering Chicago with a fresh layer of snow that softened even the busiest streets. Nearly 3 months had passed. Life had continued. Jessica still opened the cafe before sunrise. She still packed lunches before school. She still measured every grocery bill with careful attention. The difficult days had not disappeared. She had simply learned how to carry them. One snowy Saturday afternoon, she and her daughter wandered through a neighborhood Christmas market filled with warm lights, handmade ornaments, and the scent of cinnamon drifting through the cold air. Children laughed as they chased falling snowflakes. Musicians played familiar holiday songs beneath strings of glowing lights. For the first time in many weeks, Jessica felt peaceful. Not happy, not yet, but peaceful. Her daughter suddenly stopped walking. Mom! Jessica looked down. What is it? I know that man. Jessica followed her daughter's gaze. Standing beside a small wooden booth selling handcrafted toys was Richard. He was wearing a simple charcoal wool coat, dark jeans, and leather gloves. There was no luxury car, no assistant, no expensive watch visible beneath his sleeve. Only a man carrying 2 paper grocery bags. He noticed them almost immediately. For a brief second, neither of them moved. Richard slowly walked closer before stopping several feet away, leaving enough space for Jessica to decide whether the conversation would happen at all. Hello, Jessica. His voice sounded exactly the same, only quieter. She answered after a long pause. Hello. Her daughter smiled first. I missed you. Richard's expression softened. I missed you too. He reached into one of the paper bags and carefully removed a small wooden dinosaur ornament painted by hand. I saw this at another booth. He smiled gently. It reminded me of someone. The little girl looked toward Jessica without touching it. Jessica noticed that small moment. Nothing had been taken for granted. She nodded once. It is okay. Only then did her daughter accept the ornament with both hands. Thank you. Richard smiled. You are welcome. A comfortable silence settled between them. Not because the past had disappeared, because no one was trying to erase it. Jessica finally spoke. I heard you resigned. Richard nodded. Yes. You did not have to. I did. There was no pride in his voice, only certainty. I spent too many years believing success excused difficult choices. He looked toward the families walking through the snow. I was wrong. Jessica studied his face. She noticed something different. He was no longer trying to explain himself. He was simply telling the truth. Richard reached into his coat pocket. Instead of handing her something directly, he placed a small business card on the wooden table beside them. The back contained only one handwritten sentence. If life ever gives us another beginning, I hope it starts without secrets. He stepped back. I do not expect forgiveness. I only wanted to return your freedom to choose. Jessica picked up the card slowly. Months earlier, every meeting between them had been carefully arranged. This one had not. She looked at him. You did not know we would be here today. Richard smiled faintly. No. I came to buy groceries. The answer was simple. Ordinary. Completely free of hidden meaning. Jessica believed him. Not because trust had fully returned, because there was finally nothing left to hide. Her daughter slipped one small hand into Jessica's. Then she reached toward Richard with the other. He accepted it gently. The three of them stood quietly beneath the falling snow, while holiday lights reflected across the frozen sidewalks. No promises were made. No future was guaranteed. Only one small step forward. Sometimes, healing does not begin when someone asks to be forgiven. Sometimes it begins the moment they stop asking and become the kind of person worthy of trust, whether forgiveness ever comes or not. As snow continued falling across the city, Jessica looked toward the road ahead. For the first time since everything had fallen apart, the next chapter no longer belonged to a plan. It belonged to a choice.